20 seconds. You might want to hold your face impassive for a little while so that whatever caption or like frozen picture it takes of us
Okay.
is a good one. Did I lose you? I feel like I lost you.
I'm here.
All right. All right. It is about to load onto Facebook. And 10. All right. I think we are live. Let me just find it.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I see us. We'll just give it a few seconds for the video feed to connect and stream us. Hi.
Hello.
I hope this made it through on Facebook. Glenn, are you there?
I'm here.
Hi. Okay, let me see. All right, Facebook is uploading right now,
Okay.
and we are live. Awesome. So we have a few people tuning in, and I hope this is still going on. All right. Okay, hi everyone. This is Marjorie again, and today we are going to be talking a little bit about entrepreneurship with our key guest speaker today. His name is Glenn Hunter. His parents is Gloria Hunter, and he graduated from Mount Carmel High School in Saipan. He attended 3 different colleges with no degree yet, but a couple years ago he entered a program with Goldman Sachs and earned a certificate of entrepreneurship from Babson College. He's also a small business owner. If you guys have ever eaten at the Shack, Glenn Hunter is the owner. So we're very lucky to have him here today to join us. And thank you everyone also for your patience. We've ran into some technical difficulties and of course, change in venue on my end. So this will be fun. We're gonna learn a little bit about how to open up a business, and we're gonna learn a little bit more about Glenn and his journey. A fun fact about Glenn is that he pitched a prototype music video jukebox in the late 90s in New York City. So Glenn, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Oh, it was a unique experience for sure. We headed off from Hawaii to New York City to pitch a music video jukebox to Viacom, the owners of MTV. And I guess the thing that makes it kind of a fun fact is we got all dressed up in suits and headed in to the city and headed to their offices in Times Square. And when we entered the office to showcase our prototype, we were all in suits while they were all in shorts and t-shirt. Being MTV, it makes sense, I guess. But they were in island wear and we were in city wear, I guess. So that was kind of an interesting experience.
Do you think that those guys were perturbed with you guys being in monkey suits, or did they handle it all fine?
Oh, they handled it fine. They got a kick out of it. It was an entertaining meeting.
I bet. Sounds like so fun. And for you guys to pitch that kind of idea, it sounds like it requires a lot of courage just to go over there to pitch this.
Most definitely. A lot of courage and a lot of patience. And thankfully it was prior to 9/11. So we were allowed to kind of carry our baby, the prototype itself, in pieces on the plane, which was an experience in and of itself.
Right, right. I can imagine as an entrepreneurship, you kind of need those kinds of values in order to, I don't know, pitch out a product to people to buy into it. Can you tell me a little bit
Sure.
about, yeah, can you tell me a little bit about, since our audience is going to be around 17 and 18-year-olds, high school graduates, and a few of their parents, and um, whoever is in our Facebook group who will be thinking about opening up a business, like what is the kind of person who would be well suited to this kind of career field?
Well, I guess first off, thanks for inviting me, and I'm so honored to be asked to speak to that audience. As far as the type of person I think that would do well kind of going down that route as far as starting a business or entrepreneurship, basically anyone, I believe, could do it if they put their mind to it. I think the one unique trait that I've found in most entrepreneurs is a desire to solve problems and a strong passion-driven mindset. And also somebody that kind of doesn't take the criticisms and the critique of others too much to heart, because sometimes
Mm-hmm.
as you go about kind of charting your own course, one of the things that I've personally found is you will get a lot of naysayers or people that say things can't be done. And so
Mm-hmm.
the one quote that kind of sticks with me and I kind of want to share with the audience is something that I heard early on. It was Paulo Ligari, I think maybe I'm torturing his name, but he said, he had a cool quote that said, yes, it's impossible, therefore it'll take a little bit longer. And I've always kind of cherished that quote because it's something that I think most entrepreneurs believe. They see a problem or they see a customer pain or they see something that could be done better that hasn't been. And they
Mm-hmm.
have to have that mindset that they can overcome what other people see as obstacles, they see as opportunities, and they can overcome them, and they can pursue trying to develop something to solution to the problem or the pain uh, that they see in society or in their world.
Right. And it sounds lovely. And
Mhm.
it's very different from what we can imagine business owners to be in that kind of mindset, to be a little bit more competitive and ruthless. How do you balance, what or how business owners are supposed to be versus, the things that you just said are more community oriented? And how
Well,
do you
the
become successful at it?
yeah, the I guess you got to define what success is too, right? You always have to look at
Mm-hmm.
you have to look at what you find as your motivating factor in life. And some people, that's money. So, for most business owners, it's a pursuit of profit. Again, even that, though, you have to define what exactly is profit. Is it the US dollar? Is it something else? For myself, I like to think, or I used to think I was pretty non-traditionalist in a sense that I wasn't motivated by money. And I think that's kind of an important thing going into this game, because there isn't going to be a lot of, for most entrepreneurs out of the gate, you're not going to reap uh, a lot of money right out of the, right off the bat, because you're tackling new problems, you're setting up new companies, you're putting in an investment of time and your own personal money, and perhaps accruing some debt along the way in order to achieve your goals. But in the long run, if you have a passion to overcome a problem of some sort, that passion is what drives you, and the ability to get it done drives you. And where some business owners are solely focused in on the profitability of something, other business owners like myself really look at creating the business, overcoming the problem at hand, developing a product or service for people to enjoy, as well as create, there are so many social benefits and economic benefits to even creating a business in and of itself. Number one, you become more of a taxpayer and contribute to the development of the government, as well as you create jobs in most cases, and those jobs help people within your community. And so it goes hand in hand. And so as a business owner, I don't even see other businesses as competitors. I know that sounds kind of cliche or kind of uh, one of those things someone just says, but I truly believe that all other businesses are important and they need to do well in order for the entire island to do well, and in order for our entire community to do well, they're all creating jobs or helping with resources that the government needs to survive in order to provide services for us. And so there's a crucial role for entrepreneurs. And there's a slight difference perhaps between an entrepreneur and a small business owner. Anybody, not anybody, but most people can own businesses, buy a business, do that kind of thing. An entrepreneur, in my mind, is somebody that's really focused in on solving those problems and taking on a risk in order to do so. And so I really believe that for the people that are in high school right now and looking at what their options are when they get out, I know on the table when I was a younger few years ago, I played around with the idea of joining the military. I took the ASVAB, kind of entertained Air Force recruiters and stuff of that nature. I also, as you stated, spent a lot of time in school, higher education with a couple of different colleges. And then I worked for some companies as well. So there, the different avenues people can take once they graduate on what they plan to do or raise a family. That's a huge job, probably the most important job in the world. I'm a product of a single mother, and that in and of itself is a path some people take as well. But the path that I guess you invited me to talk about today was one of starting your own business and being an entrepreneur, and that's very feasible. I know for some people,
I think our connection is a little bit wonky right now.
Okay. Where did you lose me?
All right, I think it's stable now.
Okay. Where do you think you lost me on my, yeah.
You said you were the product of a single mother and lost you after that.
Yeah, kind of the different paths somebody has when they graduate from high school is, they can go into the military, they can take a job with a company, they can they can go to higher education at one of the colleges or universities, and or they can start a family or just kind of coast for a while. You invited me to talk about perhaps starting a business as an alternative to those choices. And I just wanted to let them know that it's very feasible and it's very doable. It just takes a certain mindset, I think, is the base of it, a passion and a mindset. As far as everything else, the finances, all the logistics of getting the proper permits and stuff, that's all achievable, and it should never be a barrier. And I just want to take that out of the minds of some of these future graduates, is to keep in mind that if you have a passion and a desire to solve a problem through creating a business of some sort, don't let anything deter you. If you really want to make that like one of your goals, it's very, very possible. I've talked to many people along the way that felt there were too many walls or too many obstacles to doing something like that. And I've watched them flourish after throwing their hat over the fence and kind of just taking a stab at it. And the biggest thing is, don't be afraid of failure. I know sometimes for some people that's a barrier, is the thought that, oh, if I try and do something, and what happens if I fail? I've just changed my perspective. I don't look at things as failures. I've had a handful of companies I've either owned or co-owned in my life. Some of them still exist. Some of them have no longer exist. I don't look at any of them as failures. They were all learning experiences, and they all I took something of benefit from all of them. And so that's another thing to keep in mind, is not to approach something with the idea that you fear failure so much that you don't start.
Right. I think that a lot of the challenges people face is all a part of growth, and just a way to learn how to either better do things or how we can, know things we shouldn't and ought not to do, or things just weren't our niche, right? And I know you've talked to me before about owning a couple, or you've mentioned you've owned a couple businesses or co-owned. Was it food related? Because the shack that, I think you're most well known for, at least I know that you're most well known for, is about food.
No.
So how did you start off? Go before.
No, they weren't food related. I'm kind of a jack of all trades, a master of none to some extent. I do have an entrepreneurial mindset, meaning I look at things and always try and search for solutions, and that kind of crosses many different industries, many different areas. And so like one of
Mhm.
my first businesses that I helped start was in the technology industry, a software and web development company out in Hawaii back in the late 90s. I've also started a hydroponics agricultural business as well.
Right.
And
Mhm.
I've also done optional tour related businesses in the hospitality industry,
Mhm.
working with my brother at one point and starting and launching a business out here that ties into streamlining optional tour sales. And most recently, I did do one other food related business, which was the Airstream. And so that was started on the heels of a of a pretty bad natural disaster, that being U2. And so that's something else that I can share as well, is sometimes in the most tough times, or sometimes in times like, for example, right now we're in the middle of a pandemic. Some people would think that these are not the best times for the graduates that are coming up to launch a new business, or to seek that career path of being an entrepreneur. But the truth is, it depends on your mindset and how you look at things. And when you look at obstacles or these challenges in front of us today, there are tons of opportunities within it. Things, new opportunities that are coming up. We're dealing with something that the world has never dealt with before, in terms of a worldwide pandemic. And so that's opening up so many different opportunities. For instance, even in the industry I'm within the span of this COVID time, I've seen so many businesses open up as other ones are closing down. And that's so important. We need small businesses to open up. We need businesses to open up, and we need them to hire workers, and we need them to counter the businesses that are closing up because of this new normal that we're entering right now. An example would be, because people are staying at home, and because people are being asked to do social distancing, and because restaurants aren't allowed to have
Mhm.
people come in and sit down, that opened up a huge
Right.
door for people to delve into home delivery services, for instance, out here in Saipan, that wasn't widely done in the past. And right now it is. It's an, I watched a gentleman by the name of Clint kind of take his concept and take his passion for attacking that problem. How do you get food from the restaurants into the homes during this period, and create
Mhm.
something like a Eats Easy application on the phone, and then using his business Conquer Your Hunger to, conquer the hunger, to launch and develop that business. And I watched it grow over the same
Mhm.
time that most businesses were contracting. I watched
Mhm.
him, hire new drivers, purchase new cars, so there's always opportunity. We just got to change the way we look at things, and an entrepreneurial mindset will cause you to do that. You'll never look at struggles or challenges the same way. Anytime something blocks your way, or anytime something causes you to come up in front of you as far as an obstacle, instead of looking at it as a deterrent, you automatically, your mind shifts into, where's the solution? What can I do
Mhm. Mhm.
to overcome this? And so, those are some things that I could kind of pass on to anyone that's looking, and looking to this as an alternative to those other options after graduating out of high school. If you already have that, you don't have to even own a business to have that entrepreneurial mindset. A lot of people in businesses that work for other people have that mindset. A lot of people in school have that mindset.
Mhm.
Um, and so it's something you can cultivate, and then you can utilize to start a business at some point.
Right. Well, and speaking of in terms of starting a business, like what, I mean, and besides having the right attitude and the right mindset for it, uh, if I decided that I wanted to open up a business, what resources can I access, to pursue that? Because I would think that I would need an awful lot of money, and if I just graduated from high school and I don't want to do the college route, at least immediately, and I want to explore what I want to do, what are some things I can do, or where can I go?
Well, there are tons of resources available, especially in today's world, right? And like number
Mm-hmm.
one of the most simple places is the internet. Like, you can find out about everything on the internet. If you have an
Mm-hmm.
idea or a solution you want to put forward, a company you want to start, you can get so much off of just spending quality time searching and researching on the internet alone. Other resources are other entrepreneurs, talking to people that have walked the walk already, people that have gone through the struggles that sometimes come with forming your own business or starting your own business. And so that's a valuable resource. You can get the wisdom from people that have actually done, done the hard work of starting up a business. And that's so valuable, because it's one thing to be smart and learn on your own and to go through those challenges, but it's another thing to, just like really sap the wisdom from other people. There are different, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to, I get so many people that come through, either through social media or directly to me, asking for help in, in some of the processes that are involved in starting a business. There are also agencies that are set up just for that sole purpose. One that comes to mind right now is headed by Nicole Babalta, and it's the Small Business Development Center. It's it's locally situated here in Saipan. I believe they head out to Tinian. Am I still here?
Oh, I think
no
I
problem.
Cut off. Yes,
no
you
problem.
are.
Okay.
You said where you last left off was with Nicole Babauta?
Yeah, she's the head of the Small Business Development Center out here and in the CNMI, and they provide all sorts of resources. One thing, and this is kind of it's a hit or miss, but not a hit or miss, but it's not a is you definitely want to plan when you're developing that business and you're looking to launching a new enterprise. You want to do ample planning. So using these resources to come up with these, like a good business plan, a sound business plan, is very important. Just so you have a full picture as to what you're doing, because that's so important going forward. Somebody like an SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, can help you with that planning, because that is something new. It's not something that's taught in school, at least not to my knowledge.
Right, I don't think so too, not in my high school.
Yeah, but it's so crucial. It's just, it's so crucial to have a good blueprint, and it doesn't, that shouldn't be an obstacle as well. As long as you have the ideas, you get with people that can help you with the planning, and you make sure that it's your vision and it's your passion, because you're the one that's going to execute it. And I can't emphasize that enough as well. You're going to get a lot of people trying to influence your decision making or that kind of thing. Keep in mind that when you develop a business, it's your business. You have to be wholeheartedly vested in it. And so utilize those resources like the Small Business Development Center, Department of Commerce. They have representatives up there that you can talk to that can kind of help you out with, filling out some forms, stuff of that nature. Do get involved or enlist some help from, if you're not super great in accounting, you can outsource things like that. So get together with an accounting firm or an accountant that can help you out to make sure you're establishing things the right way, and you're tracking your finances in the right way, and you're paying the right taxes, that kind of stuff. If you have a legal person, that would be great as well. Again, the small business, well, just to make sure that you're covered in terms of liabilities, to make sure that your paperwork's sound and in check. And again, Small Business Development Center can help with a lot of that as well.
Okay.
So that's important. Financial institutions could be crucial if you're looking at loans to start up a business. That's not always necessary. Some businesses, the one thing that I've seen in my past, one thing that I can share with the future graduates is you can start small and you can scale up. That tends to be a better model than trying to shoot for the moon right out of the gate. And what I mean is, when you start that business, sure, you want to be somewhere, say 5, 10, 20 years down the road, but you don't have to be there today. You can start with, more limited resources, less capital, and then you can, as your business grows, you can grow the business as well, if that makes sense. And so just live within your means, and kind of, as you gain customers, as you gain clientele, as you're going about building that business, it can slowly scale up, and you can start taking on, more employees. You can start taking on bigger tasks. So it doesn't have to be that way right out of the gate. So that's also something that I can share with them, is to kind of be a little bit realistic. You want to be a little bit, pie in the sky as far as what you want to eventually receive, but you can still maintain some type of staying realistic and within your means initially. But you can also look to accessing financing through local banks, as well as out here in the CNMI, we have something called CDA, the Commonwealth Development Authority.
Right, right. What is their role exactly in business
They
development?
can they can help. I haven't personally used them, but I know people that have. They can help with financing when that becomes an issue. If you're having trouble,
Okay.
say getting a traditional loan, for instance. Before, way back in the day, I'm dating myself, but more than a decade ago, I think if you had been refused financing for a business venture that you want to go in by three traditional financial institutions, you could take those refusals to them, and they would help you try and secure alternative financing through the Commonwealth Development Authority.
Okay.
I think that still exists. I think they maybe have a bunch more programs too nowadays. That different federal programs that exist that they can help tap to get financing that you might require to start your business. And so that's another thing. So you got your lawyers, you got your accountants, you got your bankers. These are all kind of important resources you will need when you're starting up. But you yourself become the most important and crucial factor, you and your plan. And the one agency out here that can kind of tie it all together for you is maybe like an SBDC if you're having struggles or you're needing some help, and you can just reach out to them, I think, through the internet.
Sorry, SBDC, the Small Business Development.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
Authority.
I can get you the information on them that you can post on the Facebook site so that people can contact her if need be.
Yeah, that would be great. I already invited you to the Facebook page, so just feel free to comment under our video too if you want to do it directly.
Perfect, I'll do that.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks so much for all the advice. That's I'm hoping people would make better use of those resources you just gave out. I completely agree wholeheartedly about having more of our people be willing to open up businesses, and I think it takes a lot of courage to do that. It's so scary. Like to me, the thought of opening up a business is not something in my forte, and it's overwhelming. And I didn't even know anything about it until I spoke with you. Maybe I did a little bit of research, but
it can be daunting. It can be it can be daunting. It can be challenging, but the truth is, it's very approachable and it's very doable. And something to keep in mind is there are so many small businesses that are opened up daily across the globe even, and they really are the job creators. They are the ones, like, small business really runs the economies. And so it's more than just it's more than it's very, very possible. And I'll just encourage people not to let those fears or those things that would normally intimidate people from stopping them from moving ahead if they're truly passionate and if it's something that they can see themselves doing. And things get easier. Like, whenever you're starting out in something new, there's always that challenge. It's like when you get a new cell phone, for instance. The first time you get it, you have no idea how to use it. You don't know what buttons to push. And then next thing you know, a couple weeks later, you're operating it without looking at it. Everything's flying through. So it's like that with anything else in life. Starting a business is the same way. Initially, right out of the gate, it's going to be a challenge. Utilize those resources. Later on down the road, everything becomes so much simpler, like driving a car, like anything else. Once you exercise it, once you do it, it becomes so much simpler. And there are so many resources available. Reach out.
Well, go you and go to future business development donors. Yeah. Awesome. For you, what was like your driving, or what can you talk about something difficult that you had to go through where you were just like in the pits and you decided that maybe you thought that maybe business wasn't something you wanted to do, and how did you get out of that mindset, if you've ever gone through that?
So one of the traits you're going to have to develop if you own a business is resiliency. It's so important.
Resiliency. Okay.
Yeah. So my first business that I was with, we dealt with 9/11, and that was probably one of the harshest things I ever had to deal with. And, that crippled the economy considerably, and had a huge effect on all the businesses in the US. And then, so dealing with that was kind of one of my rude awakenings, one of the first challenges.
Just hold on for a second until we get the connection stabilized.
Okay, are you back?
We're back. Okay. I'm gonna
Woohoo.
need you to start all over that whole thing with that question because I think everything started going off around that point. So
Okay, so the big
important
thing I was talking about was
resiliency.
resiliency. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and so I got my first taste of how you have to be resilient after 9/11, and that was such a huge impact to the economy as a whole, especially to small businesses. It
Mm-hmm.
meant, me having to watch as like as we laid off people because we just couldn't keep them on staff. So it was kind of a strong life lesson for me. Later on in life, as I developed other businesses, the Shack, for instance, has gone
Mm-hmm.
through numerous obstacles, I guess, along the way. We're on our 8th year in business right now. 2 years after 2 years after I launched, we had Super Typhoon Sodalor, which
Yeah.
pretty much destroyed the business. Had us shut down for 6 months while we rebuilt and redeveloped and relaunched it.
Yeah.
2 years after that, we had Super Typhoon U2 hit us and also destroy the business again. Even though we built stronger, the storm was stronger. And so once again, we were shut down for 6 months while we rebuilt, and redeveloped and relaunched. And now a year after that, we're faced with the pandemic. So there's always going to be these obstacles. Hopefully nobody has to deal with them in the same fashion that small businesses today are dealing with them over the past decade. But there's
Mm-hmm.
always going to be some type of challenge, something that comes up that does shake you a little bit. The one thing to go back to is always look back at what it was, what was the reason that you got into this in the first place. Is the passion still there? If it is, that helps you maintain resiliency, and that helps you overcome those challenges and kind of rise above it. At some point, if you are getting very shaken, you can turn to um, other entrepreneurs, other people to kind of give you a little bit of a boost when you need it. You got to keep in mind we are part of a community, and that community is helpful. I've always been blessed with a strong sense of community, and that pays off in terms of support and love, and people kind of coming forward and encouraging me as an entrepreneur to continue doing what I'm doing. My biggest driving force to launching the Shack
Yeah.
over 7 years ago was to kind of set an example. Was to set an example that somebody could, with limited resources, out here in the CNMI,
Right. Mm-hmm.
start a business, and in this case, in the restaurant industry, which is the most fickle, probably one of the most, it has the highest rate of closures for small businesses in any category. Could
Okay.
do it out here with limited resources and succeed. And so that's what
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to do. So if I keep that as my mindset, if I keep that as my focus, and this, the product that I'm providing, and the thing I'm doing is where, the T-shirt says it all. We basically we're providing, we're creating as love. We're sharing love with the community. And if I could create that bubble of love, and I can keep developing it, and I can show that it could be possible, that I'm walking the walk. So it's not that I'm just talking to people and telling them that they have the ability to do whatever their mind is set to. And so I can be that example. I can be that person. And maybe those trials and tribulations of the storms and the pandemics and everything else that might have been thrown my
Right.
way actually are more of a testament to what's possible, because somebody else that doesn't have those obstacles, it's going to be it'll be even an easier task for them. And I wouldn't wish those trials on anyone else, but it's something to keep
Sorry,
in
can
mind
you
that it
go
is.
back and sorry, it kind of got cut off. What were you saying beforehand? Somebody without these obstacles.
It would just be that much simpler for them. You know what I mean? Because if you're not being constantly bombarded with natural disasters and the such, achieving your goals and running your business become even more simple. You know what I mean? And so I just hope that I'm somewhat of an example to people that it can be done. So when somebody tells you, that, oh, that business idea isn't great, or it's too difficult to start a business, you can kind of look towards myself and other entrepreneurs out here that have started businesses. And there's so many. When I first started down this road over a decade ago, just developing the planning and actually building out the location, there weren't too many small businesses in our midst. A lot of them were foreign owned investments from outside. But over this last 10 years or so, it's been an awesome thing to watch so many people throwing their hat over the fence and doing, taking the chance, taking the risk, and opening up so many small businesses, whether they're bakeries or small shops or service industry related businesses. And there's so many out here now, and it's just refreshing to see. It changes the landscape. You end up with a community of people that are proud of what they're doing, of the products they're putting out, of the service they're putting out. And so it enhances the entire community. And so that's one reason why I'm so passionate about people looking to that alternative when they get out of school, whether out of high school or out of college or out of trade school, is to going ahead and taking that risk, because we need those people to take the risk and to solve these problems that are in front of us through entrepreneurship. It totally enhances our community, totally makes this world a better place.
I completely agree. Out on Tinian, and I can imagine also on Rhoda, I mean, there aren't very many business owners. There are local, and a lot of people are employed either in the government. And I think back when we used to have the casino, a good percentage of our population was employed there. And when we lost it, there was a good amount of our people who were unemployed. And a lot of people, especially in the government, felt it was their responsibility to employ the people. So either you were in the education or the hospital or in government, right? Or maybe you were part of the mom and pop stores that were owned by very few locals. And a lot of them are either Japanese or Korean or not from here. So there's that disproportion you see in terms of unemployment and poverty rates in CNMI that kind of tells us, like, we do need more business owners. We need more people who are willing to take charge of themselves and finding their own resources to support themselves. So,
yeah, that's so important.
Totally
And that's, yeah, you brought up something big, and it's kind of an overall thing that I've noticed in these islands is, from a government standpoint, they tend to be looking for the flash in the pan, whether it be the garment industry, now the casino industry. And the truth is, what they're looking at one large foreign entity to come in and provide this influx of a ton of money at one shot. But the truth is, it's not sustainable. We've seen that it's not sustainable, number one. Number two, if they're a large foreign entity, a lot of that money is going to be funneled out of our economy. So we have to keep that in mind. So when you're looking at it from an economic standpoint, what's more valuable, and the thing that I try and triumph more, and put out there more than anything, is these organically grown small businesses, or even mid-sized businesses, or even large businesses for that matter. There's nothing preventing somebody out here from developing a large business, on their own out here, and running it successfully. We have that capacity. We have people all over the world that are, that have created and are achieving that today. And so what we have to do is we just have to kind of take a different focus, and to not look for those pie in the sky or those flash in the pan type businesses, and to put the emphasis on the multitude of small businesses that are existing out here, and the more that can exist, because they're the job creators. They're the ones that are paying the taxes. They're the ones that are bringing money in from the outside and circulating it within the economy, not funneling it out. And so these are just very important, just on a broad kind of perspective, when you take a step back at looking at how we're going to deal with things like you said, the large amount of unemployment out here, the poverty out here. And that's what it comes down to, is there's so many opportunities in the agriculture industry, in the tourism industry, everything like that people out here that are graduating from school or coming back from the mainland can, take those risks and do.
Absolutely. I can imagine, like, starting a business, or at least for folks who wanted to start having a business, Did you find that growing a thick skin developed over time, or was it something you just grew up with, or did you just have like, you know what, I'm going to ignore all of those terrible comments? How do you judge between what's good criticism versus or valuable criticism versus people trying to be negative?
Yeah, that's a, you know, that's a good thing to bring up, because you do have to have a thick skin, I guess, when you put yourself out there, when you develop a brand, when you develop a concept, when you develop a business. You're gonna take criticism, and for myself, it did build over time, and the way I reacted to it is what changed. I'm not gonna be able to control what people say. I'm not gonna be able to control what people do, but what I learned over time is I could control how I react to it, and that's the liberating feeling, is when you decide that you're not going to react to it in the way that most people traditionally react to criticism. You will be able to kind of take a step back, decide whether the criticism is founded, if it has any true meaning, and what learnings you can take from it, and or if it's unfounded and it's nothing but a naysayer or somebody who's trying to knock you down. We do, you know, sadly it's changing, but back in the early days, there was this crab in a bucket mentality. If you were doing well, people wanted to pull you down, you know what I mean? And it's just, it's a terrible mentality, and it permeates everything. It permeates the corporate culture out here, permeates the government culture out here, permeates the family culture out here. And it's something that thankfully I'm seeing before my eyes, and maybe it's not as in my face because I'm experiencing it in, you know, on a daily basis, is that's falling by the wayside. And now we're seeing people that are trying to lift each other up, that are, you know, are providing, criticism that's constructive, are providing support and help to people that are starting out their businesses. It's not uncommon for other businesses to send people my way, even in the restaurant industry. It's not uncommon for me to do the same, and these are genuine acts of not just kindness, but it's sensibility. If you want these islands, if we want these islands to do better, we have to stop thinking of ourselves as isolated and alone, and we want to take the lion's share of the pie at all costs, and we want to see everybody as a competitor. That mentality has to be thrown out. It's not in our culture. That's not the way island cultures are. We don't go out and rape the seas, take it all into our house and let it spoil in our kitchen. We go out, we fish, and we share it among the community. That's something that we truly have at the root. We just have to go back to it. So it's kind of a unique, and the rest of the world, like, some people say, oh, well, we're from the islands, we're backwards, we're not as advanced in the business environment. You know what I mean? And the truth is, I'm witnessing it today. Like when I went to the Goldman Sachs program, I was surprised, like the research that I do and the entrepreneurs that I talk to in the States that are successful, and the models that are successful now are truly based on island mentality, that community type mentality. It's going back to the basics. It's going back to true sustainability. It's not, and working with each other to raise everybody's boat, to, that rising tide lifts all boats. It's doing that. And so that's becoming the norm now. When you look at things like farm to table things, or you look at, all these different programs, or the breakdown of hierarchies within some of these larger corporations, or the breakdown of siloing when they're doing stuff, or cross training, that's all something we grew up with out here. And so we can be the world leaders in this. And that's something that I think, the students that are coming out of the high schools today and out of the colleges today, to be proud that people are now looking at developing communities that are modeled around our true base culture, our true base island cultures. And so it's something, talk about switching that, talk about a new paradox, talk about and perception is so important. That's something that I want to share with people today too. I talked about the way I look at obstacles, challenges, what people call failures or mistakes. The way you look at it is so important. And so I look at them as learnings, for instance. And so that changes my perception. It changes the way I deal with it. It's so important in everything in life to not look at yourself as someone who can't achieve something. Everything, like if you set your mind to something, if you set your frequency to something, you can manifest it. You can change the reality around you. And it's so important for people to believe that wholeheartedly. that there aren't, there is nothing that could stop them, that quote really is true, that yes, it's impossible, therefore it'll just take a little bit longer. Like, that's so true. If they have a dream, if they have a passion, even if that passion is going into the military, going into college, raising a family, put your mindset to it, and keep your mindset on it, and don't let any of those naysayers or the people, Debbie Downers or whoever it is that might try and pull you down, affect you or affect your mindset, to stay positive, to stay fixated on what your goals are. And so it's very achievable. Everything's achievable, and there's so many resources out there and so many people out here that want to see them succeed, that want to see everybody succeed.
Absolutely. For you yourself, having grown up on the islands, and you go out into the real world, how has growing up around here impacted when you went out into the mainland or Hawaii, and your perception of yourself and how you wanted to pursue business?
Got it. So the one thing that I've always had is kind of a strong mindset to believing that I could do anything. Like, I've really always championed that. I don't know if it's something that I grew up, I believe is probably ingrained in me as a youth from my mom, perhaps, because she, that whole "you can be anything you want to be" speech, but she truly meant it. Like, she gave us the ability to ask questions. She gave us the ability to find the answers on our own. And I owe a lot to her from that. She's a product of the island. She's, she was born in an island in Palau. She was raised in Yap. She was raised out here since the 60s. And so this sense of community, the sense of the shack, for instance, itself is modeled after, in some ways, what the environment my mom created when we grew up out here in San Antonio. And our house was, it was a modest little house. I lost
you again. Sorry, guys. Sorry, Glenn. You were talking about your mom. You're coming off robotics.
Yeah, I was going to say that the shack is sort of modeled in some ways off the environment my mom created at the house I grew up in. Are you still there?
Sorry, Glenn.
No problem.
I lost you again. You were talking about your mom and how inspirational she was and the kind of mindset she had helped foster with you and your siblings.
Yeah, and so what I wanted to focus in on is the environment she created at the house where I grew up. It was a small house off Beach Road in San Antonio, and I remember we had this kind of just a very welcoming sense to anyone, whether anyone that's walking by. I mean, at the time it could be our neighbors walking by. They'd come in, and my mom loved people by feeding them. Like, that was her thing. She would feed you because she loved you.
It's a very island thing.
It's very island thing. And it didn't matter who they were. They could be people that she worked with. They could be friends and neighbors. They could be strangers off the street. I remember parties that we would have, and literally people would just stumble in. They could have been visitors from different places, or and they would just come in and they would just have a grand time. They would sit there, they would exchange stories. I'd watch them. We had a big Palauan bai set up in front of our house, like the big thatch hut, with picnic tables underneath. And so I grew up in that environment where there was this melding of like this kind of this meeting space where people were all welcome. Everybody that came there felt an overwhelming sense of love, of being welcome no matter where they came from, whether they're from, a Caucasian from the States, or, someone visiting us from Australia, or the Mormon missionaries, for instance, or, anybody who walked by the house was able to come in and really, take part in these. So I had that like ingrained in me. And so when I opened up the shack, that was something that I brought to the table. I was like, I wanted to make sure that the shack was this place that everybody was welcome, no matter where you were from, no matter who you were, no matter what age you were, no matter what political, mindset you had, that you could come there and you can enjoy and you could be loved and you could be, thoroughly enjoy the experience. So that island mentality of community is something that I took when I went to the States as well, aside from building this business. Like I was always that way with the people I met. I was able to introduce myself, to get to know them, to, there were no walls up or anything like that. And that's kind of important. And I always had a sense of respect and wanting to help help people as well. So that's something that I carried with me as well. I know some people see that as a disadvantage. I never did. I think I think having that sense of empathy and trying to help your brothers and sisters is something fundamental, and it's something that we have out
Absolutely.
here. Yeah, and some
Absolutely.
people in the mainland might have lost that. So those are things like when the kids or when the students end up out there in the big cities, they don't have to lose themselves. Instead, they can reach in and influence their realities in those situations by by showcasing the island
Mm-hmm.
spirit, the
Mm-hmm.
island spirit, that hospitality, that hospitality that's ingrained in us, that sense of wanting to help out and
Mm-hmm.
make sure everybody's doing well. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
No, I think that's really beautiful, and thank you for sharing that. I have a question.
Mhm.
So, with in addition to the several ones I had asked you earlier, uh, I remember talking to a friend of mine who had started a business, and I wanted, because I'm from Tinian, and a lot of the times when I come up to Tinian for work or I'm around, and people are surprised that I'm from Tinian, and I'm very proud of the fact that I'm from Tinian, and despite the limitations we've faced, I think the people are great and have people's best interests at heart. And uh, I remember and this person was the business owner, and I remember asking like, "Oh, hey, when is the?" I'd seen that a lot of the products this person had made were mostly for Saipan, and or catered to the Saipan tourist or things like that. And I remember asking like, when would something from Tinian and Nora be produced? And this person was very adamant that it wasn't very marketable, right? And I just thought that was a little bit disheartening, because I am, I would think that as coming from the same island, we had a lot to share with the world, and that maybe even though we're on the outer islands, it's still something that I'd like the world to know, if anything. How do you respond to that kind of thing, who think that people from the outer islands aren't marketable to a more mainstream, uh, I don't know, avenue?
So I would encourage you with that mindset to just push ahead, not to let those comments from somebody else who says it's not marketable or that it's
Mm-hmm.
not something that's feasible to
Mm-hmm.
stall you. As a matter of fact, there's prime examples of how marketable it really is. Um, Talking of Tinian, and like as an exact example would be like anybody out here, if you ask for something like hot pepper adoni, they'll always say there's something extremely marketable from Tinian right now, and that is that hot pepper. You know what I mean? That's one product that can be that can be used as a showcase true example of something coming from Tinian that is marketable, that it can be profitable, that can be highly sustainable as far as a business is concerned, and it's not just limited to that. um Same goes with like Rhoda, like any of our islands have that capacity. Even like I'm sure people in Guam say the same thing about Saipan at some point. People in Hawaii probably say the same thing about Guam at some point. You know what I mean? Like, of
It's
course, the
true.
larger areas are going to say the smaller areas are less marketable or less capable of launching products or brands. But that's not true. If anything, you have a unique advantage in that you have such a unique advantage to being so different, than anywhere else in the world. You have a rich history when it comes to the war, when it comes to culture, when it comes to agriculture. I think at one point in time there was a thriving cattle industry out there in Tinian. I remember as a
Absolutely, there
youth,
was.
yeah, I used to go into J&G Payless out here, and there would be Tinian beef. So it is something again, and we called it Tinian beef. It was marketable based on that geolocation, based on that geography, that location. You know what I mean? So it is possible. The only thing that's stopping more businesses from coming up and marketing Tinian itself and the products from Tinian itself is ourselves. That's the only thing. And so if you think there's a product you have in mind or a service you have in mind that could accentuate or could highlight Tinian itself, I
Mm-hmm.
would just really encourage people not to let people that say that it's not possible stall you. That's the one, I guess, recurring message I keep saying is to set aside those types of criticisms and move
Mm-hmm.
forward with what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's very achievable. Matter of fact, those are the things that are going to help our island. Those are the things that are going to get us out of the economic turmoil we are in, is when more and more people start seeing those opportunities and start taking action and doing something to develop a product or service. That's when these islands will be so much more rich and so much more capable of even independence on a worldwide scale. We become more self-sufficient. We become, you know, and there are models. I mean, God, I could go on for hours. I could talk to you about one of the earlier lessons I learned was of a prefecture in Japan. It was the worst performing prefecture in Japan. It was called Oita, OITA. And
Oita?
yeah, I'm probably torturing the way it's said, but I got a chance to talk to the governor of that prefecture, who was instrumental and turning it around within a span of 10 years. It went from the worst performing economically worst performing prefecture in Japan to the most highly performing economic prefecture, simply by focusing in on, they use something called one village, one product, where it's a model that's now used around the world, but it started there with the mindset of looking at something like hot pepper and Tinian, like sweet potato and rhoda, like, there could be something else. It could be fish. It could be an environmental thing that you have out there, a geographic thing, and you champion it and you put all your resources behind making it marketable and by showcasing it to the world. And the government just does very little as far as getting involved, other than providing maybe some technical expertise and some marketing on one side. But it really takes the people within those islands to champion those things, to give it the focus, and to be proud and take action on it. And then next thing you know, the environment starts, the economy starts churning, and it's all organic and it's all from out here.
Did we mute? Oh, you accidentally muted yourself.
I'm sorry, are you still there?
Yes, I think you had muted yourself. Yeah.
But I'm under quarantine, so I'm getting the daily call on whether or not I'm exhibiting signs of COVID. That's why I'm in a hotel room. But
well, we thank you for making the time, and this really means a lot to our community, and I'm really, really proud of the information we've shared, and we've been able to help guide our future business leaders as we navigate challenges now.
Can I do one shout out? I know it might not exist anymore, but along the way with the Shack.
Yeah, go ahead. Feel free to do it.
Along the way with the Shack, I had the pleasure of meeting a gentleman by the name of Bruce, and at one time, it was probably 2 years into the Shack, or 3 years into the Shack, and at the time they had the Tinian Teen Center out there, and it was such a model of what I would deem success at the time. They had, they built pizza ovens, they were teaching entrepreneurship skills, they were teaching, they were championing. Keep in mind that music and the arts is entrepreneurial in itself too. You can find purpose in it, you can find profit in it. So when people think entrepreneurs, don't just think brick and mortar businesses. The arts and performance and theater are all entrepreneurial endeavors. And so if people approach it from that standpoint, that's also an avenue to building a business, or to building a lifestyle around those things. So they had championed the arts as well, and they had championed business, and they had so it was just refreshing to see, to so much of an extent, that we were actually, prior to Sodalore, I believe it was, or maybe it was YouTube, but probably Sodalore too. We were looking at Tinian coming over here and helping us develop a Saipan Teen Center that was at the same level as Tinian. So when it comes to those naysayers that say Tinian can't be marketable or can't be that's just one of many, many examples of how successful people in the island of Tinian can be, and how much you have to offer. So just something to kind of keep in mind. And I had to do that shout out. I know they underwent hard times with the storms and all the other things that happened, so they might not be operating right now, but it is achievable. And again, that's not a failure. There was so much learned there. There's so much like, that people can take and run with on that front.
No, absolutely. I loved Bruce's model with opening up the Tinian Teen Center, and I think it was a really safe place for high school kids, just to come in. And I know they offered healthy things as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little bit bummed that they shut down, but I know Bruce and his wife Rena went out to California, and Bruce is now flying. He's a pilot. And
Yep.
I know that we actually interviewed him a few weeks ago, but he said that if he could open up the Teen Center again, he would. I mean, it was his passion, and I hope he does, and I know
Nice.
he will come back at some point. But yeah, no, I'm so glad. Thank you, Glenn. This is about you. So thank you for making the time to talk to us. And I know we're approaching a little bit over the hour, but you gave so much good advice. You gave such great advice to our community. Is there any takeaway you'd like to leave them with before we close out the session?
Just to harp again on that point, that when they put their mind to something, when they decide what it is they want to do, to go wholeheartedly towards it. And then on that same note, though, keep in mind that whatever they decide to do today might change next year, might change in a few years from there. And that's, again, not a failure. And it's something that they should openly embrace, the ability to be flexible. Your wants, your needs, the things that you think you're passionate about today might change in the future, and that's not a bad thing. Don't stall moving forward with anything because you're fearful that it might not be something that you see yourself doing 10 years from today. Take that full leap, go full into everything, pursue their passions with all their might, and don't let anything stop you. We're all so much more capable than we give ourselves credit for. And so always keep that in mind. Don't settle, and don't think that you can only go on one path or the other. The choices are all up to you.
Okay.
I might have lost you again.
I'm going to have to ask you to repeat that again.
I thought I lost you.
Don't let anything stop.
Yeah, that like don't settle, and if you have a passion and something you want to pursue, I lost you again.
Glenn, welcome back.
No problem.
Your takeaway.
So the big takeaway is not to let anything stop you. Like this end thing, like I'm doing here, is like, don't let it stop you. Just keep going at it. Be passionate. Put your whole heart into it. And just just put your mind to it, and don't ever feel like you're not capable of something that you're passionate about. We're much more capable than we give ourselves credit for sometimes. And so just have faith in yourself, and utilize the resources that are around you. Reach out, don't be afraid, and take those risks, whether it's college or job market or creating your own business or the military or whatever it might be.
Thank you so much, Glenn. I think that's really wonderful advice. And I know a lot of people in our community are so thankful for you making the time to talk with us today. Do you mind if if members in our community or in our group are able to contact you if they have any questions, or wanted to consult you about different avenues?
Most definitely. Yeah, I'm very open. So if anybody wants, you'll have my link on Facebook here now. So feel free, send me a message on Facebook. Or if you're in town, stop by and see me. I'm very approachable. I can one-on-one talk to anyone about anything that any concerns they might have, share my mistakes, which I consider learnings with them, to make their journey a little bit simpler. So yeah, I'm definitely open, and I just want to say thank you to you for reaching out to me. This is an honor, and it's I always ramble and I always talk too much on these, especially what appears to me to be a one-on-one situation here, even though there's behind it a multitude of people. So thank you for reaching out to me, and thank you for giving me this opportunity.
No, absolutely. I think a lot of people in our community know of you. And I don't know if you're able to see the comments in your end on Facebook, but a lot of them are giving you shouts out and are really excited that you're the one that we're speaking to or we're interviewing. So you got a lot of love from Muñeca and Joanna. So.
I love them both. I love them all. Yeah, yeah, these are beautiful, beautiful islands full with beautiful, beautiful people.
Mm-hmm. Again, thank you so much, Glenn. And thank you so much, guys, for listening. Stay tuned into next week. We're going to be interviewing Muñeca on climate change and
I love her.
In the Pacific. So really excited. Stay tuned.
Perfect.
Hi, Glenn.
Thank you again.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Take care. Be safe. Bye.
Yes, you too.